Before you go to meet anyone, before anything, you research and learn and study. Now, today, it's the easiest thing in the world to do that kind of stuff. When I started doing that kind of stuff, there was nothing called an internet. So you had to fumble
And
around.
with AI, especially these days, you have no excuse.
And the billionaire had flown in from Italy, and he got into the meeting room, and he couldn't get to the front because I was laying on the floor. He had to climb over my body. So when I realized, yeah, and I was legitimately really in a lot of pain. I was out of it. And of course, when I came to and I realized the billionaire had to climb over my body, that's not a great way to meet boss. And I assumed I was going to get fired.
Hi, I'm Yegi. I'm an entrepreneur and success coach who wants it all. Family, luxury, career, and the freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I'll do whatever it takes to get there. I created the Yegi Project to document my journey and inspire others to do the same. My mission is to change the world by influencing and leading others to do what they love and live fulfilled lives. Hello. Welcome back to the Yegi Project. Today's guest has lived the full life of remarkable experiences, unexpected turns, and lessons that only come from decades of real-world success. Calvin Schwartz spent more than 25 years selling eyeglasses to some of the billionaires and inspired a book that reads 10 things I learned from a billionaire. And he is going to teach us those 10 things on this podcast. But what makes him extra interesting is all the facts that I read about him and his bio. And I can't wait for him to tell us more about those stories. One thing that stood out is that he survived a VW rolling over 5 times at 65 miles an hour and walked away without a scratch. He also had a magical knee healing experience walking out of a church, which brings out a foreshadow to his spiritual side that he has impeccable connection with. And I can't wait to pick that side of him. But he's an author, a podcaster. He hosts his highly ranked podcast called Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. He has done over 800 interviews, maybe more today, and has over 9,500 subscribers and has been running for over 5 years. So he's talked to a lot of great people, his own journey of experiences through others. And what else can I say? Oh, and at 70, what age was it? 74.
80. Oh, yeah,
Oh,
74.
well, he's currently 81. Those of you that are not watching. And at 74, he decided to take on another challenge and start teaching and be on advisory boards instead of just retiring and just having fun playing golf somewhere. So we are so excited to pick his brain, his knowledge, his curiosity, and learn from his wisdom. So Mr. Calvin, welcome. Thank you for being here. Please tell our listeners in your own words, who are you and what do you do?
Okay, real fast. I started life out as a pharmacist, graduated Rutgers College of Pharmacy in '69. I was not put on this earth to be a pharmacist. I didn't like any of the things I studied. I hated science. I hated chemistry. I hated math. But I did it because I had an overbearing mother, and I did it. Practiced pharmacy for 12 years. One morning I awoke, and I told my poor wife out there, I said, I'm quitting. You just got married. You're quitting your profession. What are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just can't do this anymore. There was something, Yegi, there was something in my belly that wanted to come out. I didn't know what it was. And just at that exact second of time that I quit my profession, the Edison Valley Playhouse was having tryouts for a play called Frankenstein. You can't tell, but I'm 6'5". I'm really tall. I played some basketball. And I thought that was divine intervention. I'm going to audition for the play. And I got dressed and I ran and I read for a part of Frankenstein, the monster. It was that was February 3rd, 1981. And I read for it, and I'm still waiting to hear. I haven't heard anything yet, so I'm assuming I never got the part. And then I sat home for 6 months, and my wife's teaching, and I'm watching soap operas, General Hospital, One Life to Live, and And I know that's no way to go through life. So I had a relative get me a job selling eyeglasses as a desperation thing. And there was a little spark. Yeah, I like talking to people. And within a year, I got a job with Luxottica Group, where I stayed for 25 years and watched them grow from a little company to a global giant. Took 50 courses. And I'm nearly done with my little intro. And all that time there, loved every second of it, loved them. The stuff I learned, which is why I wrote a book about that, is tremendous. And then one day, 25 years ago, I watched the movie Casablanca for the 50th time.
Well, I'm so sorry. I'm going to pause you before that because I just want to add that Luxottica Group, for those of us that aren't too familiar, they're huge now. Mr. Calvin got to be through that journey, and being an entrepreneur, and a lot of our audience are entrepreneurs and are working on personal development. That's huge. Being part of a fast growing company that turns into global, and these are names like LensCrafters, Ray-Bans, Chanel Eyewear, all of that is under that umbrella. Just being part of that growth alone and sitting in that boardroom with all those CEOs and I don't know, top people, you learn a lot. So I just wanted to add that so you guys know why this book is so valuable, because it is decades of experience that's been applied to real life business that is doing great. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
but
I'm glad you did that.
with Casablanca, why is Casablanca special to you?
Well, it's something about the movie that I loved, and it was 25 years ago. I went out to go play tennis. It was raining. I didn't know what to do. I had all this energy. I went upstairs, and some force in the universe said, "Go watch Casablanca." So back then, I had watched it 49 times. This was the 50th time. Now it's 200, whatever. A little OCD, I guess. Anyway, I watched it, and Bogart shoots the bad guy. It's 1942 in Casablanca. And Claude Rains, a wonderful character actor, picks up a bottle of Vichy water that kind of looks like this. Looked at the label, anything with the word Vichy in it generally meant in 1942 you were conspiring with the bad guys, throws in the garbage. Second it hit the garbage, I grabbed my head and I yelled, "Oh my God." And my wife said, "Are you all right?" You know, and I said, "Yeah, but there's a novel." And I never wrote anything in my life before. Everything I studied was science. So I sat in this chair, and in 5 years later, this got published, Vichy Water. So,
and that was your first novel that you wrote?
My first novel. You know what, Yegi, I did nothing with it, but this became a vehicle for me to completely change my life around. I knew somebody up there stuck it into my head. So I retired from Luxottica. I'd been there 25 years. And 15 years ago, I was already 65, so I could retire. And this became this vehicle for me to change my life. I decided to become a journalist. I'm a journalist, a couple of magazines, and then I got hooked up with NJ Discover, a wonderful production company, and a couple of blinks of the eye, and already I'm producing and co-hosting a cable TV talk show here in Central Jersey, bringing in some national guests. We had Gilbert Gottfried, the comedian. I'm doing all this stuff. Then, of course, the teaching, because I wanted to give back, the teaching, and then the podcast. And then I needed to tell a story, so I wrote this. There's a tortoise in my hair. And, I started the podcast as a goof 5.5 years ago to keep busy during the pandemic. And, hey, that's my life.
Very quick summary. But one question I had, I also read that you turned down Mr. Steven Spielberg twice, and you're still regretting that. What's that story? I'm very curious to know.
All right. Well, it actually began. And it's a great lesson about life. It began actually when I went to see them filming a Meryl Streep movie. It was 1997. It was a Meryl Streep movie called One True Thing. I heard about it. It was being filmed in my old hometown. So I went with my sister to watch them film it, and you couldn't get. It was a November scene. It was a Christmas scene. They were making snow. Meryl Streep is dying in the movie, and you're going to have a bunch of people in the town square, and they're going to turn on the lights and sing, Silent Night. So we just watched for a while, and you couldn't get within 3 blocks of where they were filming. And then the police got word that Meryl Streep and William Hurt and Renee Zellweger, they all went inside this little theater to stay warm and get something to eat. So they led us onto the set, and my sister and I just sat down in a pizza place, eating pizza and just watching all the stuff going on. It was so interesting. And then it exploded in activity, and I said to my sister, "Let's go out and just watch till they chase us away." And so I'm standing
Let's get the most out of
watching
this experience.
So I'm watching all that stuff, and all of a sudden I feel there's somebody standing next to me, and it's Meryl Streep, and I try to be a friendly guy. I turn, I start talking to her. What am I going to say? I love your movies. You're amazing. And I'm just thrilled to be able to talk to you. While I was talking to her, a production assistant with the headphones sees me talking to her and he thinks I'm part of that entourage. So he comes over to me and he says to me, you know, we got to place you now. So I said, okay.
You just went with it. I love it.
Saying, do? I said, well, it's been a long day. Why don't you just go over it again? He does. Boom, I'm in the back. And actually, you actually see me in the movie pushing people out of the way so I can get closer to Meryl Streep. I'm in the movie anyway. That went to my head. The fact that I'm
Hey, that's what you needed. That's what you needed to take your next step. That was your gift.
yes. So I went. I heard, you know, like I don't know, maybe it was a year after that they're filming Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg. They're going to film War of Worlds, and it was in my old hometown of Newark, New Jersey. So I went down to the audition thing, and I filled out everything I had to fill out as a goof. I mean, to me, it was just a goof. And you know, a few weeks later, you know, casting called and said, we have something for you. And I was completely blown away, and I wasn't ready up here to even contemplate doing that. And I was working for the eyeglass company, and I didn't know if I could take off like 8 days. It was a long shoot, the opening scene. So I thanked her and I said no. And I was a little regretful. I said, if something else comes up, let me know. And 3 days later, she called me. We have something else for you. Then I made a terrible, terrible, terrible mistake. Said to her, because now it went to my head that they now called me twice. So I said to her, I'll do it, but I really do want a guarantee of screen time. At which time she laughed at me. She said, we don't even give that to Tom Cruise. Why are we going to give it to you? So I passed on that terrible mistake because I would have been in that open.
So what did we learn from that mistake?
Do it. You know,
Just do it.
do
Yeah,
it.
take the
Do
opportunity.
it. Correct. Do it. When you get these opportunities, just do it and think, you know, think outside the box. Do it. I mean, there I could have been lunch with Steven Spielberg. I don't know, you know.
Yeah, you never know, but hey, everything happens for a reason. So maybe that was your journey to learn from that. After that, did you not say no to anything else? Were you a yes man for a while?
The funny thing is, it all went to my head. I actually went to Central Casting in New York City and signed up for Central Casting. To be like an extra kind of thing. Within 2 weeks, they called me to be in. They were doing an opening montage for a new TV show called New Amsterdam, and they had something for me. So I went and I sat 12 hours. They did two. It took 6 hours for each little shot in the opening montage. And after 12 hours of doing that, they brought us up for supper. By the way, this is the end of my acting career. They brought us up for supper. I was last in line. By the time I got up in front, there was nothing left. So I retired from acting.
You just got a nice little fix. You're like, this is not for me, but this was fun. Hey, it's good. It's a good try. That you had a different purpose for the world.
The theory is you throw stuff on a wall. You know, you keep throwing stuff on a wall and maybe something sticks somewhere.
That's interesting. Yes, because your background was pharmacist, science, analytical brain. You're like, oh, I'm going to do acting, creative, but nope, that's not it either. So what happened after that?
Well, I just kind of, you know, I got one more opportunity to be a body double. It was a 10-week, 16-week shoot somewhere in upstate New York in the middle of winter. And they, I forgot who the actor was. I don't know if it was Javier Bardem or somebody else. And they were doing, it was a Showtime. They were doing a thing up in upstate New York about this woman who helped these two prisoners escape. True story. I actually fit. There was like 12 physical characteristics to be a body double. And I fit like 10 of them.
Wow.
But I didn't fit all 12. So I don't know if I would have wanted to have done that, you know, 12 weeks up in upstate New York in the middle of winter.
All
The
right,
end
so
of my acting. That was the end of my acting.
that was fun. I'm sure it was still a cool experience. Now, I want to dive right into your book, the one that's very relevant to our audience. 10 things I learned from reading the book, the Billionaires Book. Sorry, let me redo that again. I need to get it right. Okay, let's dive into the book called 10 Things I Learned from the Billionaire. Is that how it is? Why is this
Yes,
not
10
coming
things I
out?
learned
Yes.
from the Billionaire. Yes.
From the billionaire, not a billionaire. Okay. So
From
let
the bill.
me Okay, let me read that again because I want to get it right. Okay. All right. So let's dive into the thing. Okay. One last time. All right. Let's dive into your book, 10 Things I Learned from the Billionaire. And you have a spoiler, and you talked about longevity and the techniques that work, and that you are the living proof. And you also mentioned recently you got invited to Singapore to speak about the topic because you truly are a living example of how you can live in order to, live a healthy life as you age and your brain functions at a very high level. So let's dive into that. So, what are the 10 things? Can you summarize it, or do you want to pick your top 3 things?
I'll pick a couple. I'll pick a couple I think that are really relevant. What's interesting about this, people have been writing, self-help books and all this stuff for a million years. And I'm first to say there's nothing, it's not chicken soup for the soul and who moved the cheese and all this stuff. There's nothing like super revolutionary here, but the basic ideas here, the stuff that I learned are essential, basic things that basically people have forgotten and
Yeah.
don't, so they're not. So one of the great
And I
things I learned.
skimmed through it. I'm sorry to cut you off. And I skimmed through it, and absolutely, from my experience and reading like cajillion books about success, these are all simple concepts, but they all are so important in order to be successful. And I think it's so important for us to put it all in one book in different forms from different storytellers and authors. So hopefully it sticks to the reader and they can, I don't know. That's why they say you can read a book 10 times, and when a message comes through, it comes through. So I'm very, very excited that you did this. And this is a book I haven't fully read. I just got information about it so far. So it'll definitely be on my to read list.
Thank you. It's in two parts, kind of. In other words, I had a collaborator. Her name's Kay Wagner. We met actually a year and a half ago because when I wrote my tortoise book, she's the founder of Bold Authors Network. She's an amazing woman, best-selling author in and of herself, Kay Wagner. And I joined her group a year plus. It was January of 2005. She and I became great friends. She read my tortoise book, loved it.
And wait, for our listeners, the Tortoise book has 11 national awards, and we're going to talk about that book next.
Okay, so she read my book last March and said, Calvin, there's several books inside. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, you adopted your son. That was a long journey. You had operations. Your wife did this in vitro. And I mean, that's a powerful emotional story. I said, yeah. She said, that's a book. So, I'm thinking. And then she said, Calvin, you work for the world's richest Italian for 25 years. Did you learn anything? I said, yeah, I did. She said, that's a book. So last May, literally a year ago, I scribbled down 10 things I learned. I thought about it and scribbled down 10 things I learned. And then Kay and I met last June and we decided to collaborate. She's going to take the more clinical approach and me is going to take the Calvin approach in my own style and in my own style of writing and my own experiences because I lived it. And we started writing last July and finished the end of August. Boom. So, so some of the important things that I learned in one of our mantras at this amazing company, Luxottica Group, which is completely, totally global. They're everywhere, is do it now, do it right. Just do it now, do it right. It's simple, don't waste any time. Don't procrastinate. Just do it now and make sure you do it right. Another amazing thing is before you go to meet anybody, and that's part of who I am today. Before you go to meet anybody, before anything, you research and learn and study. Now, today, it's the easiest thing in the world to do that kind of stuff. When I started doing that kind of stuff, there was nothing called an internet. So you have to fumble
And with
around.
AI, especially these days, you have no excuse.
So, research and learn everything you can so that when you're in front of somebody, you want to make a sale. You know everything about that person, including the college they went to, what football team they like, if they like meat or they like tuna fish. I mean, the whole package. Because when you're in front of somebody and you're bringing these things up and you're weaving these elements into a conversation, well, that's bonding and that's trust, and you can't buy that kind of stuff, and it facilitates and helps you make a sale. It helps you get back into that office. these are powerful things. So, I mean, that's something I do today, even as a journalist. Anybody I'm interviewing, I read and study. I mean, even before I was looking at your website before we even got on today. Learning and absorbing your podcast. I know all the stuff you do and the beauty and all this stuff. It's so that's a powerful element. And
Yeah.
then one of my favorite things that I did and what I learned is there it's called social. There's a lot of different terminology for it, but it's called social style of selling, and basically, everything you do in life is a sale. If you think about it, so if you're with three friends and one friend wants to go for Italian, and one friend wants to go for Thai, and one friend wants to go to a diner, and another one's deli. Sale is going to be made where you ultimately go. So if you want to going for Italian, you've got to have the elements of how to make that sale. And basically, every person on earth can be categorized in four different types. There's like an amiable kind of buyer. I'm giving you a course now in a minute. There's an amiable buyer. There's a driver type personality who does the buying. There's an expressive. There's an analytical. And when you know the idiosyncrasies and the qualities of each category, and then when you're making a presentation, ultimately you want to make a sale. Boom. So my favorite category is a driver type personality. And again, this is what I learned. A driver personality's got to be in total control. You can't, and life is so funny. It's just a word. It's just a word. And so I'm with a driver type personality, and let's say I want to sell him eyeglasses and he's an optometrist.
So
And
how do you determine what type of a personality is in front of you, or you have to do the background research?
yes, you do. And you have to have some background and maybe ask some people, hey, what kind of you call some friends in the business and, I'm going to see Dr. Jones. Tell me about him. Well, tell me about his personality and his life and this and that. So in other words, you got to do research and maybe past experience too. So you put that all together and it's like you're making a martini, you shake it, you shake it. So you shake everything you can about Dr. Jones to know that, for example, he's a driver. He's got to be in control. So if I go to see him and I don't know that he's a control person, and I say to him, gotta buy, I don't know, oh, watch this. I even got here, I have I didn't plan on doing this, but this is my Armani sunglass. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, I sold these, it's my Armani. But if I go to him and I say, to Jones, you really ought to buy this. This is a great sunglass. Everybody's using it. Because he's a control freak. He's going to say, I'm not interested. I don't want it.
Yeah.
Now, if I had said to him, this is how fine, if I would have said to him, do you think you could use this?
Because now he's in control.
That's right. Giving him the power that he needs, whether it's subconscious or unconscious, the power and the respect that he needs. Do you think you could use that? And he would say to me, you know what, give me a dozen. And the first time I did this, after I took this course, and I went to a driver personality and I said, do you think you could use this? And they said, yeah, give me a dozen, give me 2 dozen. I had to control myself from not laughing out loud.
Yep, now they're in control. The leader, they want to disturb you. I love it.
Exactly. So it worked out really great.
Yeah, and I think knowing the personality, knowing that it's even different, it's just like different characteristics and personalities in anything in life. And I've learned that with having to interact with a lot of people. If it was at the salon for a client, if it was my employees in the office, if it was like vendors and customers, all that stuff, I picked it up without knowing the actual term because I just dived into business. I went to business school, but I didn't learn that much compared to in real life experience. I figured out how to talk to different people in a different way. And it wasn't only for sales, it was really to get through to them with certain things. Like even for some employees, I knew if I give them the choice of planning out how they want to get this project done, it was going to get done excellently. If I told them exactly how I wanted to get done, it was not going to get done to what I wanted the final results to be. So it's interesting that you mentioned that, and I just wanted to share my experience with it too for our audience.
Okay. There's a couple more things. Listen, I could talk about this stuff all day.
Yeah, we want to learn. We want to learn from you. So teach us everything that you think is top knowledge for our entrepreneurs.
Okay, there's strategic thinking means and this was so embedded into me, into the team, the management team. Strategic thing is you're in a meeting, and of course you have all the background, all the information you need, and you let all the others lay all the cards out on the table, and you hold back until the very end, and then you make your decision at the very end based on what you heard. Let everybody else lay their cards out and you hold back. Now, who was the greatest? One of the greatest strategic thinkers ever was a guy named Franklin Delano Roosevelt, President Roosevelt. He was brilliant. When he used to meet with Stalin and Churchill at Yalta, and they'd have all these high-level meetings, he led, especially with Stalin, because there was always tension there. He let all of them just lay out all the cards, and at that very last second, he would strike based on everything they said. So be a strategic thinker. Let everybody else make their presentations and their thoughts known, and then you can put it all up here. Maybe if you have AI in your pocket, you can have AI help you, and then you strike.
Yeah.
And that's why he was so effective as a world leader and as a leader of America. I marvel at Franklin Roosevelt. And there's another thing I learned. It's funny. I was taught about the $10 million lesson because it's funny. The day I met, and I read about this, the day I met the billionaire, I didn't know it, but I played tennis and I fell and I hit my chin. I had two broken mandibles. I didn't know it. And so we had a managers meeting in Scottsdale, Arizona. And this was way back. And I was in such pain. Pain was excruciating. I didn't know what was wrong with me. That I had taken a pain pill. I was actually laying on the floor of the meeting room. It was a kind of an auditorium seating meeting room, and all the execs were up front. And the billionaire had flown in from Italy, and he got into the meeting room, and he couldn't get to the front because I was laying on the floor. He had to climb over my body. So when I
Oh my
realized,
God.
yeah, and I was legitimately really in a lot of pain. I was out of it, and of course when I came to, and I realized uh, the billionaire had to climb over my body. That's not a great way to meet the boss. And I assumed I was going to get fired for that. A few days later, we're back in New York. I was called in, and I really, I knew I was getting fired. I mean, you can't have a boss man climb over your body. But I wasn't fired, and I was told about this guy Watson from IBM, worked for IBM. I believe his name was Watson, actually. He made a terrible mistake once on a Friday, this guy. And it's the same story for me and how it was related to me. He made a terrible mistake, and it cost his company millions, $10 million, actually. And he knew he was done. He was done for. So that was Friday. Monday morning, he was called into the CEO's office, and he had his resignation speech. He had all the stuff packed. He knew he was getting fired, and so he's in meeting with the CEO, and the CEO could sense that the guy's really nervous, and the CEO says, "Do you think you're getting fired?" He says, "I know I'm getting fired." And the CEO says, "Why would we fire you when we spent $10 million on Friday to teach you a lesson?"
I
Isn't that
love
great?
it.
That's
Yeah.
historic, and
And
a
that's
lot of
a
people.
great boss to work for, great group of people
Correct.
to be around.
Correct. And one other quick element, it was always said you be kind to the people you meet on the way up because you're going to meet the same people on the way down. You're going to have the values, the team values, the working with people values, the respect, because people can do stuff for you. And that was always inculcated into me, and that was brilliant because even meeting people I worked in the warehouse and stuff. You treat people with respect and equal, and everybody's on the same level, and they wind up doing amazing things for you. So these are some of the elements, and there's a lot more, but we'll save that.
We'll save it for our audience to grab the book and read it, and then we can discuss it in the threads.
Sure.
Let's jump to the Tortoise book. So that's more of a spiritual book. What's the key takeaways for our audience, and why did it win all these awards?
Because it's real. And it's a novel. I wrote the novel, but there's a lot of me in it. Of course, I'll deny that, but there's a lot of me in it. But I've been gifted, and it's funny. I interviewed yesterday a gentleman who builds AI. I mean, he builds AI. He's a
Wow.
builder of AI on another plane. And I told him all this stuff, and we talked and we shared, and we all have antennas, and the things that have happened to me, and why this I think is so important. The things that have happened to me can happen to anybody. I was lucky enough to have my antenna up so that I could receive this spiritual stuff. I ain't no different than anybody else. I go to Rutgers football games and basketball games, and I eat tuna fish subs. I'm just a regular guy, but you mentioned earlier, I got healed coming out of a church in Nazareth, and I mean, really healed in front
I
of
want to
witnesses.
hear that story too a little bit more in detail when you get a chance to tie it in our
Okay,
conversation.
so it's part of this, and that's again that was a contributing factor why I wrote this. The things my antenna was up, and things began to happen in my life spiritually, and so astounding and powerful stuff that I felt. I guess it was 7 years ago that I really need to tell the story, and the message, the takeaway is this place where we live might not be the end all.
Hmm.
There's no understanding, and maybe AI will help us understand, maybe not. It actually involves consciousness, powerful word, heavy stuff. I don't want to
Yeah.
be not in the mood to be too heavy. It's heavy stuff. It's consciousness, and the more once you become aware of things beyond our understanding, the more you get. So the more you're aware, the more you get gifted. We all have that. Nobody, but we live in such a crazy world, Yegi, and we're all so busy with AI now pummeling
We're
us.
distracted.
Right. So, but it was so profound and not of this earth kind of thing. So one of the contributing factors why it was 2016. And my wife and sister-in-law and cousin, we had planned a trip to go to the Holy Land, for a long time, to see some of the sites. At that point in time, I had hurt my knee a couple years prior, and I'd been treated for 2 years. Everything under the sun you can do to a human knee, I had done to my knee. Some illegal stuff. Somebody I knew got a some DMSO, which is dimethyl sulfoxide. They use that for horses in Europe to race.
You just wanted to try it all. You were desperate. I love it.
Correct. God, I had that injected in my knee. I had ozone. Nothing worked. By that point in time, I was walking with a cane. Couldn't walk. I couldn't walk. I had so much pain. Couldn't walk. And I was gonna back out of that trip. And then, of course, my wife said, nobody's gonna go if you don't go. So I said, all right, I'll go. I'm a lot of pain. I got a cane. Not happy, but I'll go. Quid pro quo, if I go, is I need 2 days to do what I need to do when I go there. And they said, fine. So day one, I got permission from a Muslim school to climb on top of a Muslim school that's close to the Temple Mount, Haram al-Shef, whatever. And I took some pictures to be close to that holy place, that place of reverence and spirituality. I took some pictures there. Later that day, went to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, another very holy place. As soon as you walk in, you look on the second floor there, and that was the hill where Christ was crucified. And then you walk
Hmm.
further in, and actually, there's a picture of me sitting there with my cane, waiting to go crawl through a little space because you get into a little room, a little cubicle where Christ's casket is, where he was buried and where he was resurrected from. So I crawl through, and it's hard to describe in words. I'm a writer, but it's hard, and my hands are on the casket and
The
meditate.
feeling.
Yeah, I'm so meditating, and it was a powerful spiritual experience, really powerful. And then the next to the last day, I wanted to go to Nazareth, where Joseph's church and Mary's church is, and I'm by myself now because because I walk so slow with a cane. I did Joseph Church. Then I go to Mary's church, and in the basement there's a shrine to Mary. There's a sign there, here the world was made flesh. And I meditate. Meditation is a great thing. And I meditate for a little bit, and I'm by myself. And then I'm walking up the stairs, and I'm in a lot of pain. And I see there's a side entrance, and let me take the side entrance. And I walk to the side, and it really was bad, the pain. And then I take one step out, and I go, oh my God. And my wife came running on, "You all right? What happened?" My sister-in-law? I said, "I'm healed." "What do you mean?" "I'm healed. I
Huh.
don't." or pain. It's gone. It had never been gone.
Just
It's
moment,
no
like just within a moment, just momentaneously as you walked out, all the pain was gone. It's like
gone,
it was
and
never
it's
there.
still gone for the most part.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a wow, and it's funny. I came home to Jersey, and the first thing I did is call my orthopedist, who's a really good friend of mine. He's a street man. I said,
Take
"What's
a
the
scan.
deal?"
Is it really gone, or am I on some sort of drugs?
Correct. Yep, I got healed, and that was powerful.
Wow.
It was powerful. All these other, listen, I'm looking at some of my relatives who are gone, and I had a case, and I wrote about it in here too, where my mother came out of the picture. She's been gone for 20 years, and she typed "mom" on my cell phone, and there are no explanations here on earth that.
Yeah, and it's a whole other, I think, topic and subject that if people are interested, once you start learning about it and being more aware, like you said, you get more messages or you get more knowledge and you just explore that spiritual world. And I've dabbled a little bit. I don't know how it just keeps coming up in my life. So I'm like, okay, maybe I want to learn more about it. I want to learn more about it. So I've been learning and learning, but it's super interesting to me. And I personally think I've always called it I have a super strong intuition where I just know things. Like I just know and it always works out and plays out for me. And that's how I explain, I feel like, my connection to God. I don't know. It's just a very tricky subject. And I personally also don't like to talk about it too much because I feel like I don't 100% understand it. But I agree that there is something powerful out there. And I've experienced like having these deep knowings and I don't know, callings and just going with it and it all working out and being like magically okay. If it's a health thing, if it's a business decision and all that fun stuff. So it's very
Uh,
exciting when you experience that like
Wonderful. It's wonderful. We all
knowing.
have it. We all have it.
Yeah.
Nobody doesn't have it. We all have it,
Just
but
gotta
we just
listen.
don't. You gotta. And I was really gratified because as soon as I finished writing this, as a goof, I sent it into Kirkus Reviews, which is one of the most prestigious book reviewers in America. They've been around, I don't know, 90 years. And 3 or 4 months later, I got back, a Kirkus Star, which is one of the highest awards you can get. And it was like somebody slapped my face. Oh, wow. Where do
Wow,
I come?
yeah.
This is, I never, I never said this before on air. I'll say it on air now. After I wrote that Vichy water thing, I was telling this guy yesterday, because I'm so spiritual, one day I channeled Albert Einstein
Huh.
because I had this, I've had this picture for 25 years. I
Okay.
found this picture and it's Albert Einstein's eyes. So after I wrote Vichy water, I channeled Albert Einstein. And when I channel and I meditate, just like I'm talking to you, Yegi, I said, Dear Albert, I know you're busy and stuff and wherever you are, I got a favor to ask. I do not want to learn. This is exactly how I channeled. I do
Uh-huh.
not want to learn about relativity. I don't care. And I don't have the faculties to learn about that. But I said, if there's some kind of energy you can send me, something that you can send me to make me a better writer, I would be really grateful. And I'll swear from that moment on, I became a better writer. I can't explain.
Interesting.
And
That gave me goosebumps. Oh, very interesting.
and I became a better writer, and absolutely I believe that. And this has gone on to get 10 more awards, and I'm up for a few more. From where does that come?
Yeah. So what is your main message with the Tortoise book
The
that you
main
want our
message.
audience to hear?
The main message is yes, there are things beyond our understanding. There's a lot of spiritual things, and you've got to have a lot of faith in yourself, and you've got to be strong, and you have to persevere. And you can't succumb to bad things, and you have to motivate and remotivate, and um, you're the only one in the whole world who understands yourself and you can never be disappointed in life. If you don't expect anything, you'll never be disappointment. So don't expect anything, and it's you that has to persevere. You yourself. Don't look for outside help. Look for spirit and look for yourself and dig into your soul and stuff. And that's what this is. Well, that's what it's about.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was wasn't an easy journey. No journeys are.
Yeah.
Graphic about some things there. But also, but it also gives me a chance to express my feelings about people, about civil rights, because I was very involved in civil rights and also women's liberation. These are all parts of who I was and what I am, and I get a chance to express that. It's nice when you write a book because it's your world. So you can
Yeah,
say and do whatever you want. It's your world.
I
And that's
love
what
that.
I got a chance to say the things I wanted about those important, issues. Environment too. I'm also an environmentalist. Been that way since April 22nd, 1970, when I went to the first Earth Day. So it's a wonderful vehicle to express the things that are part of you.
Yeah, and that's important to you. Excellent. Now, to sum up, we are running out of time. What is the biggest challenge you had in your life or business or work, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenge is now, I have all these wonderful things. I have this wonderful podcast that's ranked in the top 1% globally. I have this wonderful book. I have this wonderful book with so many messages and so many awards. Maybe you can help. I don't know, but nobody knows.
Yeah,
Nobody knows. Biggest challenge. How do you get people to know, to recognize?
yeah,
Uh, and I've spent 2 years intense, and such an intense 2 years to how you get, what's the magic? How do you get people to know this? Because you've done some really good things
yeah.
here, great messages. There's wonderful spiritual stories. There's stories about civil rights and the people I've met. I met John Lewis, who's one of the great civil rights pioneers in American history. I met the Reverend Wheeler Parker, Emmett Till's cousin, who was with him. I mean, all
Wow.
these ingredients in my life. How do you get people to,
To
yeah,
and doable, and we're building that, and thank you for being part of that message. And I think even this is something I reminded myself today. I was like, even if 20 people are only listening to this podcast, those are the right 20 people that need to hear this right now, and they can tell 20 more people. It's just having the influence for the right people. And that gave me a lot of peace. I had to remind myself that today. With that said, I appreciate you and your work, and that is a true challenge. There is a lot of marketing tricks and techniques we can all try, and it's always evolving, and to us solving that challenge together as a community to get meaningful information out there. But before we close, can you please share your last words of wisdom, and where can people find you to connect with you?
sure. I'm on Facebook, heavily on Facebook. I love social media. On Facebook, I'm Cal Schwartz on Facebook, and on LinkedIn, got, I don't know, 15,000 followers on LinkedIn. I'm Calvin Schwartz on LinkedIn, calvinschwartz.com, my little website, and of course my podcast, It's with Calvin, We the Species. A very unique, different podcast like your own. It's different and unique, and because I'm a retired guy, I have all this time to kind of find people, and which I would love you to be a guest.
Yeah,
Talk
would
about
love to
that.
be on there.
So, and I'm also hugely responsive. While the going is good and people read my books, and they want to talk to me about it, hey, I'll Zoom with them while the going is good and I have the time. One day soon, maybe I'll get really, really busy. It will be harder, but I'm very responsive because I was taught that by the
Yeah.
billionaire.
Yeah, and
The
it's so
culture.
important. It's so important to do that. And for our listeners, this is gold. There are not many people who are willing to sit down with you, talk with you, to share wisdom through the years with so much life experience. So take advantage of it and reach out to Calvin and support his work and grow together, because yeah, there's so much we can learn from each other. Thank you again so much for your time and everything. And I look forward to this podcast airing. And everybody, thank you for tuning in. Please let us know what you think. Grab a copy of the book, discuss it, and see what we can take away from it. But until next week, bye. Thank you for listening. Please rate and review this podcast. Follow and engage with us on social media under the Yegi Project. And if you're interested in being a guest, email info@theyegiproject.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.